Let me say this before I get into anything else, because some people continue to try to twist it. And that's actually part of the point of this quickie. This is not about the Jewish people. This is not about the citizens of Israel. This is not about the Jewish faith. I have been clear about this since my previous episodes, and I will be clear about it every single time I come to this mic. The Jewish people are not Benjamin Netanyahu. The citizens of Israel, half of whom want him gone and have been protesting in the streets for years, are not Benjamin Netanyahu. This is about one man, a corrupt, indicted war criminal, who is dragging the entire world towards a conflict nobody wants so he can stay out of prison. And if there was ever a time for America to publicly, loudly, unequivocally break from Benjamin Netanyahu, it's right now. Last night, Pakistan mediated a 2-week ceasefire. Everybody exhaled. The world pulled back from the edge. Iran agreed to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. The Pakistani prime minister announced a ceasefire covered, and I'm quoting him directly, Lebanon and everywhere else. Effective immediately. That was the deal. That was what 10 countries, including Germany, France, Italy, the UK, Denmark, Spain, the Netherlands, Canada, and the EU, all publicly confirmed should be the deal. Benjamin Netanyahu waited 3 hours. 3 hours. And then his office put out a statement saying, actually, the ceasefire does not include Lebanon. And he launched the largest wave of strikes on Lebanon since the beginning of this war. 254 people killed in one day. That is the single deadliest day in the Israel-Hezbollah war. And 180 of them in Beirut alone. A building collapsed in a central neighborhood. The UN human rights chief called the scale of killing nothing short of horrific. The UN Secretary General condemned it. The European Union condemned it. Germany condemned it. Canada condemned it. France condemned it. And then Netanyahu stood in front of the cameras and said, and this is a direct quote, "This is not the end of the campaign. Our finger is on the trigger." He said that out loud, hours after the United States of America negotiated a ceasefire. He said his finger is on the trigger. And while the ink on the ceasefire, is still wet. This is not a man who wants peace. No. This is not a man who can be trusted. This is not an ally. This is a saboteur. And our so-called president, the same man who threatened to exterminate 93 million people on Tuesday, is sitting in the Oval Office saying, well, Lebanon wasn't really part of the deal. Directly contradicting the Pakistani mediator. Directly contradicting the 10-country European statement. Directly covering for Netanyahu's sabotage. And that's what it is at this point. It's just pure sabotage. This guy wants World War III in the worst possible way. Now think about what this means. Pakistan, a country led by Shehbaz Sharif, just did the work that every American president should have been doing for the last decade. They pulled the world back from World War III. They negotiated in good faith. They got both sides to agree. And within 3 hours, Benjamin Netanyahu torched it. Not metaphorically, literally. With hundreds of airstrikes on Beirut. And our president backed him up. That's the scariest part. Yair Lapid, the leader of the opposition in Israel, a Jewish Israeli politician who loves his country deeply, called it the worst diplomatic disaster in Israeli history. Said Netanyahu failed strategically, failed diplomatically, failed to meet a single one of the goals he set for himself. Said the damage will take Israel years to repair. That's not Hamas saying that, by the way. That's not Iran saying that. That's the leader of the Israeli opposition, a Jewish man, speaking directly to his own people about his own prime minister, and he called it a disaster. If Jewish Israeli politicians are willing to say Benjamin Netanyahu is a disaster for Israel, why is the United States government still treating him like an ally worth protecting? I want to name the thing nobody in the mainstream American politics is willing to name. Benjamin Netanyahu is evil. I don't use that word lightly. I don't use it for people I simply disagree with. I don't use it for politicians who are corrupt or incompetent or even cruel, except Trump. Evil is a word I reserve for people who look at human suffering and see opportunity. People who look at dead children and see political cover. People who would rather light the whole region on fire than face a courtroom. Netanyahu, like I've said before, is facing ICC arrest warrants for war crime. He's facing 3 domestic corruption cases at home. His own attorney general, before she was forced out, said he accepted over $260,000 in bribes. He has been prime minister for a cumulative 16 years, and his response to every political crisis, every indictment, every piece of bad news for himself has been start another war. Escalate. Keep the country in crisis so the country can't hold him accountable. That's not leadership. That's a hostage situation where the hostage is the entire nation. And here's the most heartbreaking part. The Israeli people, the actual citizens of Israel, have been trying to tell the world this for years. Before October 7th, 2023, there were hundreds of thousands of Israelis protesting the streets every week against Netanyahu's judicial overhaul. His own military reservists were refusing to serve. His own ambassadors were resigning. The country was tearing itself apart over him. And he survived all of it by being in a constant state of war. Because as long as the war goes on, you can't have elections. You can't have trials. You can't have, wait for it, accountability. This is not a Jewish problem. This is a Netanyahu problem. And every time American politicians conflate the two, every time they say you can't criticize Netanyahu without being anti-Semitic, they are insulting Jewish people by equating them with one corrupt criminal warmongering monster. The Jewish people deserve better than Benjamin Netanyahu. Israeli citizens deserve better than Benjamin Netanyahu. And Americans deserve better than a government that protects him with our money while he drags us towards World War III. Let me tell you what I want to see. Democratic and Republican politicians stand up publicly and say Benjamin Netanyahu is not an ally of the United States. He is a threat to regional stability and global peace. We are cutting military aid. We are demanding he respect the ceasefire. We are supporting the Israeli citizens who are trying to replace him. That's what leadership looks like. That's what allies do. Real allies tell each other the truth. And the silence right now is deafening. Where is Chuck Schumer? Where is Hakeem Jeffries? Where are the Democrats who say they care about peace? They called Trump's threat to 93 million Iranians a war crime, and they were right to. But where are those same voices now that Netanyahu is bombing Beirut hours after the ceasefire? The selectivity is telling. They only get loud when it's politically safe. And it's never politically safe to criticize Netanyahu in Washington. Ever. Because APEC money is on both sides. Remember, 65% of Congress took the check. Parties, red and blue, Monster and Jellyfish, both cashing the same check. So the Democrats won't do it. The Republicans won't do it. Trump is actively covering for him. And the American people are watching the world inch closer to World War III because one corrupt politician in Tel Aviv doesn't want to go to prison. I said it earlier and I'll say it again. We have our own dangerous embarrassment sitting in the White House right now. A man who threatened to exterminate 93 million people 2 days ago. A man who his own Supreme Court, his own appointees told no on birthright citizenship. A man who just fired the second cabinet member and is running through attorney generals like they're disposable napkins. we have our own problem. And I'm not pretending America is the moral authority, because we're far from it. We lost the right to call ourselves that long time ago. But two dangerous embarrassments don't cancel each other out. They multiply. And right now we are watching the two most dangerous and most corrupt, most narcissistic politician leaders on the world stage, Trump and Netanyahu, feed each other's worst instincts while 254 people die in Beirut in one day. And a fragile peace that could save millions ends by a threat. Peace doesn't seem to be an option for Benjamin Netanyahu. Never has been. Peace is bad for his political survival. War is his shield. Escalation is his campaign strategy. And the only people who can actually stop him here are either the Israeli electorate, who he keeps preventing from voting by staying in perpetual war, or the United States government, which is supposed to be the adult in the room, but is currently being led by a man who thinks threatening genocide on social media is a negotiation tactic. If ever there was a time for American political leaders to find their spine, no, find their sack and break from Benjamin Netanyahu, now is that time. Not next week, not after the next election, not after the next atrocity, now. While the ceasefire still has a pulse, while the world is still watching, while there is still a chance to save lives. And to the Jewish American citizens listening to this who might be worried about where I'm coming from, I see you. I see you and I love you. I am not your enemy. I'm speaking out against Benjamin Netanyahu the same way I would speak out against Donald Trump. Because a dangerous, corrupt, destructive leader is a dangerous, corrupt, destructive leader, regardless of what faith they claim, what race they are. The same gospel that tells me to love my neighbor tells me to call out tyranny. The same faith that tells me to forgive tells me to protect the innocent. And the innocent right now are in Beirut, in Tehran, in Gaza, and in every city where Benjamin Netanyahu decisions are costing lives. Peace is not a reward we give to people who deserve it. Peace is a decision we make because human life is sacred. And right now, there is a man who has the power to choose peace and is actively choosing war. Every single day, every single hour, every single press conference, call him out by name. Benjamin Netanyahu. If you are a politician in the United States and you cannot say those three words as if he is Voldemort, he who shall not be named, then you're weak and ineffectual and should resign. If you cannot say Benjamin Netanyahu is sabotaging peace, then you are not a peacemaker. You're an accomplice. And history is going to remember who said his name and who stayed silent. I'm saying, I'm running for anything. I don't take AIPAC money. I don't have a donor class to answer to. I have a chair and a camera and a conscience. And I am telling you, Benjamin Netanyahu is pure evil. Peace is not an option for him. And every day America protects him is another day we are complicit in what he does with that protection. The smoke doesn't rise to be seen. It rises because there's a fire underneath. And right now, the fire is in Beirut, it's in Tehran, it's in Tel Aviv, and in every corner of the world that is watching the adults refuse to be adults. Think for yourself. Say his name, and you can quote me on that.
Love thy neighbor. Love thy neighbor. Love thy neighbor. Oh, love thy small. But faith is love now. Love thy neighbor. Oh, love thy neighbor. Love thy neighbor. Oh, the small. But faith is love now. Oh, the small. What's your